May was Mental Health Awareness Month, and we kind of blew past it because we were so busy talking about transitions and what that success looks like for our young adults. But kind of going back to the mental health thing, that's on everybody's mind, right? It's on the forefront, and it should be discussed. And it's okay if you're struggling. At any point, if you are struggling with mental health issues, alcohol, drug use, whatever, pick up the phone and call 988. There is someone on the other end to give you confidential, free help, and it's there. So when it comes to our mental health and it comes to having a multi-diagnosis of autism on top of that, what does it look like? Please welcome to the show Lori Cole. She is the director of the Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit at Viewpoint Health. Hi, Lori. How you doing?
Hi, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me, Gina.
Oh, I'm so happy you're on. You know, before we get started on the Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit, I think you have a pretty fabulous story yourself. Care to share what that is?
Well, I think what you might be referring to is that I do have a 34-year-old son who has a moderate autism diagnosis, among other diagnoses. And I have lived here in Georgia for all 34 of his years and kind of navigated the system of how do you get services. My son was diagnosed with mental health issues earlier than the diagnosis of autism.
Oh.
And we found that it wasn't really working. He kept going into crisis. He has been in crisis units, when he was a child before. It wasn't until we got the autism diagnosis when he was about 14 that we realized that some of these behaviors were related to autism and not related to the mental health. Now, he does have mental health issues that are, accurately diagnosed, but there's nowhere in Georgia, at least up until us, that have addressed both of those issues simultaneously, or even more than two simultaneously, so that you can kind of piece out what do you need to treat, how do you need to treat it, medication, assessment, all of that led me, when this opportunity came up, it just led me to say, this is where I'm meant to be.
I was going to say, so it kind of helped you reinvent yourself to become the director of the Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit over at Viewpoint Health, right?
Right. Now, and I worked in crisis stabilization units for mental health for years. So it wasn't so far of a jump from it, but I started in special education before my son was born. And then it's even on my resume, I am my son's advocate for services. And then, when he was pretty well, established and in services, then this opportunity came about, and I'm a person who believes in serendipity, and here I am.
So tell me a little bit more about the stabilization unit over at Viewpoint Health.
Well, at Viewpoint Health, I can tell you there is every program you could imagine for mental health. I specifically am the director of an Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit. So children who are between the ages of 10 and 14 who go into mental health crisis or behavioral crisis that is really not able to be managed in the community, they'll be referred to our unit, and we'll see them for, depending upon the amount of time that they're in crisis, we might see them for 15 days. We have an authorization to see them for 30 days. So we do a whole lot in our unit to help the child and the parent and the family sort of navigate through, living with autism, which is what your website's called. But, some of them will have had services before. Some of them will have not had services at all, because our youngest age at 10, sometimes, if it's a milder form of autism, maybe, they haven't known until very recently that there's an autism diagnosis. So we can kind of help with helping them to understand the diagnosis, and then also helping them to understand when there's coexisting situations and conditions. We can help them with treatment for that as well.
Like multi-diagnoses.
Correct.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so who's this program run through? Is it run through the state that kids get transferred there? Or?
Yep, the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities decided that this was a population that really needed to be served. And additionally to, there are other crisis units for specifically for mental health in Georgia. We are the only crisis unit that addresses both autism and mental health. Now, to come to our unit, you do have to have an autism diagnosis because that is what our specialty is. Mm-hmm. But there's a variety of different mental health conditions that go along with sometimes with the diagnosis. And it's becoming more and more prevalent in our community of mental health to know that autism itself, depending upon the level, can cause depression, can cause, some things that really, if you're just treating the autism, you may not be treating with a holistic view the way that we do.
That brings me to this. Do you know some statistics around autism and mental health issues?
I do not know the exact statistics. I know that I can tell you from my experience of working within my program, we have maybe had not even a quarter of our admissions would not have both a dual diagnosis or a multi-diagnosis of things that need to be addressed and treated. And, that will always assist them with a better quality of life so that they hopefully will not need to come back to see us.
That's the goal. Lori Cole, the director of the Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit at Viewpoint Health. When we get back, we're going to find out about follow-up care with the kids and what that looks like, and also about the families. Stay with me.
Don's Tree Service is awesome.
Love Don's Tree Service. They've come out for a giant oak tree removal, another for some debris removal.
One thing I really appreciated about Don's Tree Service, they come, they take those trees down, and they take everything away.
For a free estimate, call Don's Tree Service, 770-413-TREE, or find them online at donstree.com.
Welcome back to Life with the Spectrum. I'm your host, Gina Cavalli. With me today, the lovely Lori Cole. She is the director of the Autism Crisis Stabilization Unit over at Viewpoint Health. Lori, you mentioned that kids can stay up to 30 days. Mm-hmm. Sometimes they stay as little as 15. Mm-hmm. How many beds do you have for kids?
Mm-hmm. We have 10 beds, so we can at one time accommodate 10 children. We typically do not have 10 children all at a time, just to be very, transparent and real. We are able to serve the amount of children that need us. We very rarely have to deny a child within our age group who has autism, who is in crisis.
Right.
So we're proud of that, and we're really excited about that.
And then do you find that oftentimes kids come back because they're dealing with another crisis?
They may, and particularly with your more profound levels of autism, there may be lots and lots of work that needs to be done. And here in Georgia, we're just in the process of developing resources for those kids. So we are, as I think I said before, we are the only resource for those kids. Yeah. So they will come back because we're able to maybe further along, practice more, assist more. And one of the things that our unit takes incredible pride in is the ability to link our clients and their families to services once they leave our unit. That is what we take. We start our discharge process in that respect from day one by asking the parents what is it they're exactly looking for, both while we're in crisis, and then after crisis, what kinds of supports would they be wanting? We are able to suggest what would be helpful, and we're able to be sort of a liaison between parents and the system to let them know what is available out there with the Department of Behavioral Health.
So now a child has been discharged and back at home with their family. Do you follow up with that family and just say, hey, I'm checking in on Billy Joe, want to make sure that, you found the help that you needed with our help, connecting the dots for you, and how is he doing? Do you follow up like that?
Absolutely, 1,000%. Not only is that a requirement for us that we do meet very, very well, we do probably over and beyond what we're required to do. We'll call the next day to make sure that they've made it home and that things seem to be, the transition is starting to go well. And then we'll call a week later, and then we'll call a week after that. And then we'll always invite them to call us. So we like to say that once a child comes to our unit for the first time, now they're part of our family, we become resources for them. I myself often will answer phone calls and questions and help to refer, based on my own experiences with my son, and then also for the unit.
Okay, so I have to ask, what's your biggest success story that you can share? Obviously, I know you can't give names, but what's the biggest success story you feel has changed and put a smile on everyone's face there?
Oh, that's hard to pick because statistically, we have a 3.9 out of 4 rate of satisfaction with our clients. So that's a wonderful, that's a true testament to the team at our unit. I would say, because I'm one person, you would probably have to ask each person, but I would say, since you're asking me and I get to answer the question, I would say that we had a young boy who came to our unit, and he was diagnosed as completely nonverbal and had some very significant behavioral challenges. And maybe 45 days later, he left our unit with some words. So he was speaking. We use the PEC system. We have a very highly developed ABA, trauma-informed ABA. It's it's different from your traditional ABA, but we have a very, very holistic ABA. So putting all of that together, he was able to leave with some words and with some language, and we were able to link him with a program that was going to be perfect for his continued growth. So that sticks out in my mind probably daily. I think about it.
Yeah, it's got to make your heart smile, because when you see somebody at their lowest point and they can only go up from there, and that you and your team make a difference. Thank you, Lori, for doing everything that you do for the folks that need that short period or longer period of stay at Viewpoint Health.
Oh, thank you, Gina, for having me on. We love what we do, and we do it wonderfully. And we really want to encourage anybody who, if you want to find out more about our program, you can go to myviewpointhealth.org, and we will be one of the programs listed. You can find a plethora of other programs listed on the website.
You truly never know what someone else's demons are and what they're walking in and walking through at the moment. So keeping everybody's mental health on the forefront of your mind is important as well, because somebody might be struggling. If you have a teenage son or daughter that needs some crisis intervention, look to our friends at Viewpoint Health. It is run through the Department of Behavioral Health right here in Georgia, and they can get that crisis intervention that your family needs right there on the spot. All right. Anyone else watching this show or listening as a podcast, remember, if you are struggling with any mental health issues, drug or alcohol use support, if you feel like you're going to make a permanent solution to what I promise you is a temporary problem, pick up the phone and call 988. All right. 988. Use those 3 numbers if you need it. I appreciate you coming back to Life with the Spectrum week after week, listening as a podcast or subscribing to the channel right here on YouTube. And next week, another great person comes on the show. You won't want to miss it. All right. So until then, we live life with the Spectrum. See ya.